The first time this was sung? The first time this song was sung was in 1743. It had already been written. Handel had written it, but they sang it. The king was in the audience. The king was out there. And it had an audience out there, and all of a sudden they got to a particular phrase, and they all stood up, including the king, and they just couldn't understand it. This is almost 300 years ago, folks, and this song still is great. The quality of what we'll show you today is not, but listen to the song, read the words. The words are going to be up there. Read them, and think about them, and how amazing they are, folks. Listen, when you start thinking about people rising up 300 years ago, and how far we've come that we can listen to just something that doesn't even say anything about really the character and the attributes of God, and we get so excited. But then something like this comes up 300 years ago, and still today having an effect on us. Doc, are we ready, big guy? It's not singing it, is it? Y'all want me to sing it for you? No, you don't. The zebra is excited about God. All right. No, that's good. I'm about to sing it. That's okay. We're going to keep going. We're going to do it without lights because the lights won't come on. Guys, let me. There's a phrase in this song, folks, and we're going to get to it in just a second. Look at this. For the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. For the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. We get to a phrase in there. If you get it any time, we'll listen to it then. We'll get to a phrase in there where it says, for the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. We get into a situation where we forget that God's omnipotent. He's all powerful. He can handle any situation that I'm in. And they keep singing this. Now, folks, this is what, you know the song. Get it in your head. You know what it sounds like. But folks, this is the thing. And they say the devil's in sound equipment. It absolutely is sometimes. But Doc is a good man. There we go. Folks, the amazing thing about that is 300 years ago, they were singing, almost 300 years ago, they were singing this song. And it was making people rise to their feet. It was making people excited about what was going on. They just couldn't. They see this, and the Lord shall reign forever and ever. It was neat to see this thing, this panoramic view as they were just kind of going around and stuff. God's going to be over the earth. His presence is going to be over the earth. We're going to be there, folks. We're going to be in heaven one day. And when we finally come to the new Jerusalem on the new earth, His presence is going to be there. King of kings and Lord of lords, it starts by saying the omnipotent God. The omnipotent God, knowing all things and all powerful, omniscient God. He's my portion. The rest of the world cannot know what's going to happen. In fact, they'll go and they'll read the astronomy stuff. They'll read all these things, and they'll not know what's going to happen next. They'll not know the astrology stuff, but they'll not know what's going to happen next. But God says, I am your portion. I am what you've been divvied out. I am the one that's going to take care of you, and you're going to honor, and you're going to glorify, and you're going to worship. And time again, folks, can you imagine sometimes when we get, listen, I don't know if that's a karaoke version or not, but I'm telling you, I can't hit those notes. But folks, there are choirs who sing this, who may not even believe it. There are people in choirs sometimes who we get up in choirs and we sing about His love, we sing about His grace, and we sing about His holiness. But how many times, folks, have we sung about the holiness of God and not understood what we were saying? If we understood the holiness of God, it would be something similar to this, in the sense that it would make us want to shout. It would make us say, oh my, this is how far away He is from what I am. This is what He is, and this is what I am. And that is what is my portion. You are my portion, God. You are my sustainer. So many of us come with problems with Ryan. This is going on, and this is going on, and I know. And here's the saying: I know God can fix it, but I know God can fix it, but I don't know. Things are just tough. I had somebody tell me today that very thing this morning. They told me, look, this is going on, it's just tough. I'm not going to come in Sunday school class today. I've got this going on. It's just really tough right now. And they walk off, and you say, oh my goodness, let's talk about God. Let's talk about Him being my portion. Let's talk about Him sustaining us. Folks, there's no problem He can't be my portion for. There's no problem He can't be my portion for. Folks, God isn't dead. You know how I know? I just got through talking to Him. It's in songs we sing. I talk to Him every day. I talk to Him every day. He's not dead. The rest of the world says He's dead. He's not dead. He's moving in our lives. Everybody, there's several of you coming in and talk about answered prayer requests. You say, well, it could be coincidence. No, friends, it's the living God. And the very one that's created all things. And we look to David, and David who had been in what he had been in, and finally he said, look, I've tried it all. I've been everywhere. There's some of us in here with that testimony. We have that testimony. I've been in all those places, Ryan, but I'm telling you, there's no fulfillment in that. It's the same with the Tom Brady's. It's the same with the LeBron Jameses of this world. They say there's just something's not there. I got all the money, and I got all the fame, and I got my arms stretched out for the world to see me. And folks, there's so many, but guess what? It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. When you have everything, when you have all of the portion that the world can give you, it's not going to be enough, let me promise you. And then they say, well, let me give it a try. Give it all to me. Folks, it's been tried time and time and time. Again, Brad Pitt said the very same thing. He said, I don't know what it is. I got all the fame, I got money, I got this family, I got all that, but it's just something that's missing. But the moment you say something about Jesus Christ, the moment you say that He might be His portion, the moment you say that's what's missing, that the whole concept of God and His holiness and worshiping Him and being saved and being born again, that's what He needs, then all of a sudden it turns off. That's not what I need. Folks, it's always going to be an emptiness. Can you imagine having all of that and always being empty? Always looking for something, always being thirsty. Can you imagine never fulfilling a thirst? You know how thirsty you get. What about you never fulfill the thirst? What about a hunger when you never fulfilled your hunger? You were always hungry. My 9-year-old boy feels like that sometimes. But if you were always hungry, guys, always needed something, and you never could fulfill it, you never could fulfill an emotional loss, you never could fulfill any of those things, folks. That's what these people are dealing with. They're dealing with a portion that's not enough. They're dealing with a portion that's not enough. God is always enough. God and His portion are always enough. You know, there was a sculptor, and I know I got to let you go. There was a sculptor who was sculpting, and he actually sculpted the goddess Diana. And he sculpted for the Athenians, and they were very happy. But what he did was he was prideful. And what he went in and he chiseled out his name on one of the corners of the clothing that he had put on her. He chiseled his name in it. But somebody found it. Somebody found it. And they found that name in the crease, and they said, my goodness, what in the world? He's got it in there. To get rid of him, they banished him from where he was. He couldn't live there anymore. They were upset because he had messed up this statue of this goddess. Folks, you know how many things we put our name on that God does? We put our name on it. Look what we built. Look what we built. Look how big it is. Look how things are going. We sign our name up in the crease of it, and God comes in and says, who put their name on this? Who put their name on this? I'm enough. They don't need to know that you did it. I'm enough. It's enough that God's moving. Doesn't matter who's in charge. It's enough that God's moving. Doesn't matter who's preaching, teaching. Doesn't matter, folks, because God's in charge. He says, who put their name on this? There's nobody's name. Ryan, your name's not supposed to be on this right here. Your name doesn't even matter. I love you, but folks, you don't have your name on my stuff. God, omnipotent, reigneth. Folks, listen to this. I got this right here. This is what the world's all about right here. That's what they're all about. They came in second place. Came in second place in a 9-10-year-old group, and the Sharptons, their son came in first place, and they got trophies. And look, folks, let me tell you something. This is what it's all about. They get the trophies. The world's about this right here. And all of this is going to do, you know what? My Tyler's trophies that he has upstairs, he's got them all stuffed in the closet. He doesn't even have them out anymore. This is what the world's all about. But David says, God is my portion, and God says, I'm your portion. Why do you need this stuff? One day, my son's going to be dead, and hopefully he's 85, 90 years old when that happens, but these aren't going to mean a thing. Somebody's going to have them as a paperweight, or somebody's going to throw them in the trash and say, we don't need these things anymore. All these awards we get, and great, we give out awards. We give out awards a lot, but they're not going to mean anything one day. They're not going to mean anything when the trophies are burned. They're not going to mean anything when they're in the trash. They're not going to mean anything when all of this happens. When the trophies of this world are gone, God's still my portion. We can't just walk on anymore. We have to take time to spend with our portion. This is mine. I can take it with me. I'm going to hoard my portion. And then I'm going to get out and I'm going to see somebody like, hey man, you ought to check this out for a minute. Hey, you can come right into this portion too. You can have a part of this portion. It's the same amount of portion. God gives them the same amount He gave me at the whole time. Folks, I'm talking about this is what will sustain us. This is what will build us. This is what He is. When you think you can't walk on, folks, take one more step. When you think you can't move more, let God move you. When you think I can't go on with this right now, I don't know how to get through this situation in my life, either with my marriage, or either it's with my finances, or either it's with my life, it's with my health, it's with scans they're taking on my head, or if it's tests they're taking with my body, whatever it is, they tell me I have this disease, they tell me I have this. Folks, keep going. God's your portion. The doctors aren't your portion. The hospitals aren't your portion. God is your portion. The disciples, martyrs. It's almost time to go, guys. But listen to me. Listen to me. The disciples, they decided God was their portion. They didn't need this world. Do you know they were probably young? I've said it in here before. You know they were probably young. Scholars say that the disciples were probably teenagers. You know why they say that? Because most of them, you got married at 13. You went out and got a job at 13. You were a man. You were grown to them at 13. The culture said you were grown. And it said most of them didn't have families and wives. Most of them just had jobs. And they said with Jesus being 30 years old, that most of these would have been in their early 20s to teenagers. We're talking about teenagers, guys, right in here, that they were in this. You know what they decided to do after Jesus died? They lived their lives to die. They lived it to die. They said, you know what? God's my portion. I don't need a fancy boat to go out here and fish with. I don't need these things. All I need is go and die for Christ. I go and serve Him. He's enough. God's enough. God's enough for my problems. God's enough for my addiction. God's enough for my marriage. God's enough for anything that may be going on in your life. He is your portions, folks. He is what you need to sustain you through whatever you're going through. Somebody close for us.